Hi and welcome to another Mixed Media Tuesday, and today I'm making 3 different tags. The tags can be used either to hand out along with your gifts, you can use them as ornaments on the tree, or you can even send them out instead of cards. For creating the tags today, I will use a bunch of mixed media techniques, and I'm going to take you through the 3 tags, and the ones I'm working with are made from chipboard, so they are nice and sturdy. And they are about 4 by 5.5 if you want a rough idea of the size. You can definitely create your own tags if you like to make something similar, or you can even work on wood slices. These are also a great option as well. And let's start with the first tag, and for that I'm going with grey for the background. This is a color that I used for my advent calendar and it came out beautiful. So I think that a winter sky with grey at the back, light grey, is a great background choice as it makes everything look really frosty. I am making sure that this layer of paint is completely dry. And now I'm going to do some stenciling. I do have this stencil which is full of snowflakes, and I'm going to go over it with volume paste. You can use any modeling paste that you have for this step. This is going to give me a lovely background with lots of snowflakes. I'm going to peel off the stencil so you can see the result. And now let's work with white paint. This is acrylic paint again. At this time I'm going to apply it with a sponge tool. This is great for applying acrylic paint over a stencil, but I like to use it because I love the effect that it gives, especially when it comes to snow. So I'm going to dab at the bottom of my tag as well as on the sides, and it's going to give a lovely effect. This is not going to show as much, but I'm working on the background at the moment and I need to make sure that I have a white base. And since I have some leftover paint, I'm going to apply some water and add some extra splatters. This is going to read as snow along with the big snowflakes that we have on the background. Now here comes my favorite ephemera. I did use those on my advent calendar project and I'm going to use them again today. So this is a pack from the classic Christmas collection by Stamperia, and you can use pretty much anything from this set to create a little cluster. I decided to go with a lantern as well as a bunch of flowers. But first let's add some interest on the tag. Just to add some extra texture, I'm using this cheesecloth which I'm sticking down with some glue. And then for my ephemera, I want to have some extra dimension, so I'm using foam tape at the back. You can definitely use your hot gun at this stage to stick all the elements down. I also add a little bit of white on the edges and then I'm going to stick it down. And let's introduce some extra red with this bunch of poinsettias. Again, I did use foam tape at the back for extra dimension, as well as inked up the edges with white acrylic paint. Now I'm going to add some extra leaves. And for these ones, I am going for one of them with dimension at the back. The other one, I'm just going to stick it down completely flat on top of that cheesecloth. Now the fun part about using the ephemera is that you can put together those tags in no time. You can even go ahead and do them assembly line, like color a bunch of them with grey at the background, then add the snowflakes with a stencil and then just create clusters by sticking everything down. I am going to make a couple of those in this manner just to show you a few ideas, and then the third tag is going to be completely different by using different techniques like resin and really dimensional elements. So here I'm adding a poinsettia and a couple of those leaves on the other corner of my tag, just working on a diagonal. It's always making any composition look more interesting. And you can stop here if you like, or if you want you can add some extra snow, adding splatters on top. You can even add any product that you may have in your stash that looks like snow. There are products like this one that is a paste with glitter, or the one that I'm actually going to use for this project, which are flakes that look like snow. So I'm just going to use my glue in different areas, just randomly here and there, and then I'm going to just apply the flakes on top. They're going to stick where the glue is and they're going to stay put. You can definitely do this step with your glitter. Just use a scrap piece of paper underneath to catch all that product that falls out of your project so you can put it back in the jar. I zoomed in for you so you can see how the tag is looking at the moment. Now all you need to do is to just embellish it with some ribbon. I like to add a couple of ribbons, so I'm using this grey transparent one as well as a thinner one. I like to use different ribbons, different textures, different widths and colors, just to make that bow at the top of a tag more interesting looking. Now I can struggle with tying a bow on top of my tags forever, and I can do it again and again until I'm happy, but I will pretend that this is perfect now, and let's move on with the process. If you want to make your tag more fun, you can always thread a little bell and tie it at the top, and you end up with a tag that makes sounds as well, which is always fun to have something interactive. You can definitely write your message at the back, from and to, if this is going along with a present. If you are going to send it as a card, you can always add a sentiment at the front, or you can definitely leave it plain with no sentiment. And let's create a second tag using pretty much the same techniques as we used for the first one. This time I'm going with light blue for the background, and I'm going to create a scene in layers. So I will have a background and a foreground. I'm starting with the house and the tree, and I'm sticking it about the middle of the tag. These ephemeras are also stickers, so you can peel off the packing and stick them down. I'm going completely flat for this layer since this is going to be at the far background. Now I'm going to grab my volume paste, and you can do that with any modeling paste that you like, or even a paste with glitter that looks like snow, depending on the products that you might have at home. There are many different options in the market. In any case, I'm going to use my volume paste. This is the one I'm going for lately. I like the fact that it is super bright, it holds its shape, and it dries quite quickly. So I'm going to apply, let's say, snow all over the place from the bottom of the tag all the way up to the bottom of the house, just creating a snow hill there. You can go as dimensional as you like, or you can use your spatula and smooth it out. It really depends on the look that you are going for. And if you want to add some sparkle on this tag, I'm going to show you a trick now, and as the paste is still wet, you can always apply on top glitter or any snowflakes that you have. Here I'm using again Arctic Ice in Flakes, and they are going to stick on the wet product and they are going to stay put. I'm not going to add too much, I just want to have some sparkle here and there. So now the house that I use is from the Ephemera pack, which means that this is cardstock. Now I'm going to bring in some elements from the chipboard set. These are the die cuts that they are quite thick and they are perfect for the first layer that I'm going for. Now you can choose any of those elements and stick them at the front. It's going to give an extra layer on your little winter scene. I decided to go with the big tree as well as the deer. And for these ones I want to add extra dimension, that's why I'm going with foam tape at the back. And then I'm just going to stick them down. Now my volume paste isn't dry yet, but this is not a problem at all. If you want, you can also use your scissors to trim off the excess. I don't mind, I like having elements going outside of the page, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. And then on top I'm going to stick my little animal. And now let's add some extra snow on top of the whole scene. You can do that either by diluting your white acrylic paint or by using any calligraphy ink, just like I'm doing here, just because it is super handy to do. And now for some extra finishing touches, here again I'm using the same technique with my sponge tool, and I'm just applying a little bit of white all around the edges. Just like I did with the first tag, I'm going to tie a bow at the top. You can also add some bells if you like. And I think that for this specific design, if you have silver bells, would match perfectly with the color theme. And again, depending on your preferences, you can add the quote or not. And let's move on to the third tag, which is the most difficult and the most beautiful, I have to say. It's definitely my favorite. I'm starting by applying an ivory color on the tag. I'm just going to cover it up completely. And then on top again I'm going to use my snowflake stencil and go over it in different areas. Now I did say that this tag is the most difficult. It's not difficult, it is just more time consuming than the previous two ones. So here I'm just using a piece of a box, I just like to do that, corrugated cardstock. I'm going to peel off the top just to make it look more interesting, and it's always a nice element, it adds a texture on a project. And again, here comes the sponge tool. I did use it a lot today, along with white acrylic paint, and I'm just dabbing on top of the corrugated cardstock, and you can see only the mountains pick up that color, and I absolutely love the effect that it gives. I'm going to stick it on top of my tag, and this is going to be the base where I will create a little cluster with dimensional elements later on. I'm going to chop off the excess. Now I'm going to bring in different elements that I'm going to use on top of this tag. So here you can see I have a pack of leaves, flowers, and I love the fact that in the package you get those small branches as well. And for this tag I'm going for brown and earthy colors, so I'm going to bring in the mold, and this is an amazing mold by Stamperia. I'm going to go with the deer as well as the couple of acorns up here. So you can do that either by using your clay or your resin. I'm just going to pour in resin here. And I always have to say it, open up your windows when you're using resin, wear gloves, don't do as I do. I'm just not a messy crafter, and I know that I will not spill anything. The resin I'm using is a 2-part resin. You mix part A and part B in the same amount and it dries in 10 minutes, so you have to move quickly. I did share many times my process of using this resin, but if you want a 101 step-by-step video just on how to pour resin with lots of tips and tricks, let me know in the comments below and I will make sure to film one. Now when I have the resin out and the mold and I'm in the process, I prefer to mix more resin than I actually need. So since I am creating a few elements for the project today, I might as well pour on extra elements to have on hand for another project. So you can see here I went with a bunny as well as a big pine cone and an adorable little bird. These molds are very soft, so it is super easy to pop them out. And when you pop them out, they are quite soft still. That's when you want to use your scissors and trim off any excess or over pouring that you might have. Now here for this animal, for the deer, I didn't want to have the grass base, that's why I'm using my scissors to trim it off. And now I'm going to use browns to color the acorns as well as the deer. I am going to show you on screen which colors exactly I'm using, but any shades of brown would do. Just go with light brown for the base of the acorn and darker brown for the top. When you apply the first layer, it's not going to look fine because you cover up everything and you cannot really see the details. But trust me, there are easy ways like dry brushing or adding patinas on top of molds to make them come to life. And that's exactly what I'm going to do after the first layer of acrylic paint is completely dry. I'm adding a little blob of vintage paste. This is an oil-based product, so you need to dilute it with either mineral spirit or turpentine. You can make it as runny as you like, and then with a brush just go over the whole animal as well as both the acorns. Don't worry, it's not going to dry quickly. It takes hours and hours for that to dry since it contains oil. Make sure that you cover it up completely on all the nooks and crannies. It's going to look all brown. And then with a baby wipe, just wipe off the excess. Don't make a thorough job with the baby wipe. You don't want to remove the whole product. It is going to stay in all the nooks and crannies, and it's going to bring your molds into life. By the way, I'm getting a lot of comments about the use of baby wipes. These are not real baby wipes, they are like wet paper and they are biodegradable. You can easily find them in the market. And it's finally time to put the tag together. I'm starting with a piece of cheesecloth, and this time I'm going with my hot glue gun. And then on top of that, I'm just going to create a cluster with all the elements that I have. First, the bunch of brown cheese, which is going to work as a ground for the deer to stand on. Now for the deer, I want to add some dimension. That's why I'm going to use a couple of pieces of cardboard at the back. And then I did add a couple of flowers at the base, the acorns of course, and I'm going to finish it off by introducing a couple of leaves on the side. And to bring all the elements together in a composition like this one, we need to add the same detail on all of them, and that's snow. With my sponge tool again, I'm going all around with white acrylic paint on the tag, and then I will also touch all the elements on top of them, just adding the look of snow on the flowers, the acorns, even the little deer. I'm not pressing the sponge tool at all, I'm being very gentle, just touching lightly all the elements. I am also going to dilute with water the white paint that I have left over and add some splatters with a thin brush. And I'm super happy with how it looks. I absolutely love all the dimension and the earthy colors. Now for the finishing touches, you can definitely add a sentiment if you like. I decided for this tag not to. I'm also going to thread some ribbon and string at the top to tie a bow. And I'm also going to add a bell. And again, for the bell, I'm going to add the same detail as the rest of the elements. Lightly touch it with my sponge tool to give that snow effect. So here are some close-up photos on all the 3 tags that I made for today. Links to everything I used can be found down below in the description, just like always. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired, and if you did, don't forget to click the like button as well as leave me a comment. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.